Alright, today we're going to be doing something completely different to any job I've ever done before, and we're going to be building a boardwalk. We've got, 50 metres?
Yeah, I think so.
We've got about 50 metres of this ruined, rundown boardwalk here. We're going to be going through, demolishing all of this, and then building a brand new boardwalk. Sweet.
We've allowed 2 days for the demo, and it's going to be a full-on 2 days. This entire old boardwalk has been built out of hardwood timber, so it has been a nightmare to cut through, and it's been even worse to try pick up and carry.
We're making some good progress. We're definitely over halfway done now of ripping up the old boardwalk. Unfortunately though, you can see how much stuff is behind me, and we're going to spend the rest of the day finishing the demo over here. Most of the boards are up, we've cut a lot of the bearers ready to go, but this is going to be a long afternoon of just trying to carry everything up here and around the corner to stack it. Watch yourself. Alright, so the day's done. The boardwalk started here this morning, and you can see we still got some posts that we're going to try pull out when we get the excavator here tomorrow. We've removed all the boardwalk, cleared everything out of the way, and I think we've removed about half of it. So tomorrow morning we're going to go through, move all this stuff. There's a huge pile we're making with all the leftover stuff. So we're going to move all this out of the way, demo the end, and hopefully start digging some holes tomorrow. I'm ruined today. We've got a big drive home and then straight back into it tomorrow. And for all the old timber that we're getting rid of, we're grabbing it from there, carrying it all the way up here, and we're just doing a stack around the corner for now until a bin comes. But this is a look at everything we've taken so far. Yeah, your hand would have been like, your hand would have been right there. Jeez, I'm scared he's gonna jump at me. Can you put your hand next to him so we can see how big he is? He looks tiny on the camera. Where you go, buddy? Where you go? Where you go? Oh no, I do not want him in there. All right, so the demo is done. It's 10 AM now, and you can see we've gone through, removed most of the boardwalk. The only thing we have to do now is go through and get rid of all the stumps. It's probably not gonna be the most physical part of the job, but I think it's going to be one of the worst parts. We're going to go through first, cut them off the resi, and most of them are quite rotted out, so hopefully once they're cut off, we can get in there with a pinch bar, try to break up the concrete, and hopefully we can pull all of these out. We've also got a digger here too. We're going to be using that to do all the holes, but another thing that we're going to be doing is going through today and just changing the slope of the land to be more gradual. Now the reason that the boardwalk rotted out in the first place is you can see all the water was running down into it. So if we change that slope to go further down and we build this boardwalk higher up, the water should pass by underneath it, and hopefully we won't have any issues with the new one that we build. Alright, that's day 2 done, and we are done with the demo and clearing back the land. There might be a tiny bit we've got to do once the boardwalk's built, but tomorrow we're going to have the first day on technically building. The day is probably going to be mostly digging holes, so I suppose it's not actually building, but it's getting ready for the build. We've gone through, we've roughly marked out where every hole's going, and unfortunately the holes are going to be 1,400 apart. We do have some big posts that we're using, which are going to go 900 deep. They're going to run up to hold the boardwalk, and they're going to extend all the way through, so we've got a handrail as well. We've roughly marked them out, and I think for most of them, the holes are going to miss the old holes, which is great because you can see where they do line up with the old holes, there's concrete in there, and tomorrow's going to be another full-on labour day trying to break up that concrete and get these holes done. Hopefully it's easy. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. Alright, so we've got 66 holes to do today. It's going to be a push, but as long as there's no issues, we should get them all done. The only problem is we're 3 holes in and we've had 3 issues. The first hole, you can't really see it, but we're just hitting rock and the auger's struggling to get through it. So I'm gonna have to be here trying to break it up, trying to get through the rock a little bit, and then hopefully we can keep going. Issue number 2, the second hole. We've hit some old drainage system, and as you can see, it's just filled up with water. Since the hole is filled up though and it's not overfilling, it does mean it was just some old drainage system. It's not mains, it's not any active water, which is good. So we'll just have to drain that hole out and then see what we hit, see if we got to fix it or see if it's some old discontinued pipe. And the third issue, which we knew was going to happen, is we have hit power. Now those cables are ran to power these lights. They've been disconnected. We knew we were going to hit that, so that's been turned off. These are going to get pulled out. But as you can see, it's just been an issue that's been wrapping around the auger, and we can't really drill holes, so we keep sucking into that and pulling it out. So definitely not the best start to the day. We'll go through, fix these 3 holes up, and then fingers crossed we can get smooth sailing after this. Right, we're wrapping it up for day 3, and today was a pretty bad day. We had either 64 or 66 holes that we wanted to dig today. We knew there were going to be a few that we may not get done because there's going to be concrete in the way, like this one here. There were a lot more holes that were going into concrete than we thought. The issue is our space is at every 1400, and what we're going to try to do is do what happened over here and have our holes land in the middle of where the old posts go. You can see here we've got an old post right in there, so we've got a concrete footing there, and our new footings are going to be on either side of that. So that works for a few of them, except since the old boardwalk had the posts so irregularly spaced, all those missed the concrete, and then over here we had that one hitting the concrete footing, that one hit the concrete, hit the concrete, hit the concrete. So we tried to get as many done today as we could. We've probably only got 6 or 7 holes fully dug out. There's a few like that which have been drilled out, but we still need to get the shovel in and try to get rid of the dirt. Not much got done today. It was problem after problem, and we're going to be looking at a few different options tomorrow. We're going to be doing something different tomorrow, either getting an excavator in. There's been talks about putting stirrups on the old footings. There's a few different ideas that we might do. For now though, we're going to pack up and get some rest.
The decision was made to get a 5-ton excavator in for the day and to actually go through and fill in the holes that we already made and to try to get all those old concrete footings out. While the excavator was busy going through and pulling the concrete out, I spent the day getting the bitumen paint out, and we started coating the bottom of the posts which were going to be sitting in the ground. Even though these posts are H4 treated and are made to be sitting in the ground, this bitumen coating is just going to help protect them even more from any moisture, and it should give another 10 years onto the life of these posts.
We thought yesterday was a bad day. Today turned out to be even worse. First, you can see the size of the old concrete footings that the excavator was actually able to pull out. Lucky we did go with the excavator. The options was either to get him to come out for a day or to get a few jackhammers, and we're just going to get in here and try to break up the concrete and then pull it out, which was not going to work. That would have taken way too long, so we took the right option. The reason today was so bad is we got out 4 of the old footings, and then we found these here. Now, in all the reports that we got for this job, we had no idea that these were going to be here running through the boardwalk. They're actually going all the way down to the bottom of this little lake here, and you can almost see it through the trees. There's a small treatment plant there, and that's sucking up the water, and that's pumping the water all the way up through those pipes, going up the hill to the resort up there. So essentially, they have some pretty heavy-duty pipes, and there's going to be a lot of pressure in there. So if we hit one of those and break them, water's going to go flying out. It's going to turn into a disaster. It's going to turn into a mess. Obviously, we don't want to hit them, so the job's been put on hold. We're heading home today. I think a few plumbers are going to come out to locate exactly where the pipes go, and we'll have to get back into it next week. Bit of a slow start, but I reckon once we get past all these hurdles and get these holes dug, the job should be back on track.
The plumbers have come out and they've located exactly where these pipes are, and we need to move the boardwalk slightly to the side to make sure we don't hit them. And today is actually not day 5, it's day 6 now. I wasn't here for the last day, but as you can see, the ground has been flattened and those holes have been filled in. We've actually had the excavator come back and he's gone through and pulled out the rest of the concrete, and today I think we're finally ready to dig the holes out. The dirt that we're trying to dig into was so dry and soft that every time the auger tried to pull up, all the dirt would just fall off the auger bit and we actually weren't clearing the holes. That's why one of us has had to stay on the hose all day, hosing down the hole and hosing down the auger bit so that dirt can actually stick to the auger bit and we can actually go through and dig these holes out. It's actually been about a month since I've been at this job. We've ran into so many problems with a few pipes and cables being under the ground which weren't meant to be here. So it took a long time to get everything sorted out, to get the sparkies here to rerun stuff, to get the plumbers here to redo the pipes. Now though, everything should be good to go. Most of the holes have been dug. There's still a few holes on the far side that have to be dug up. But today I think we're just going to start putting some post in and hopefully make some progress. At this point, most of the holes have been dug, but we're just going to have a few people on the shovel this morning to clear out the holes and make a few of them slightly wider. While they're doing that, we're going to be starting to put the post in. And what we're doing with the post is we'll put the end post in first, and then all of the posts in that are going to be changing direction. There's a few different points in this boardwalk where our boardwalk's going to change direction to go around the corner, and we want to put those main posts in so we can run string lines between all of them and then have the rest of the posts dead straight. Our goal for today was just to get these main posts in, and we got them done, and we've got the string lines set up and ready to go to fill in the rest of the posts tomorrow. Concrete's coming at 1 PM today, so we have a push this morning to try to get everything ready. We want to go through and get every single post set up and make sure they're all spaced an even distance apart from each other. Since these posts are going to be running through as a handrail as well, you're going to be able to see them and you'll be able to see the spaces in between the posts. So spending a lot of time making sure they're spread out evenly and then trying to get them all straight with each other, all plumbed and all ready to go before the pump starts pouring. To be honest, I was a bit nervous this morning that we wouldn't get every single post in and every post ready. We only had a few hours to do this, but we did come in clutch and we got everything done with about half an hour to spare. Luckily for this job, we've also ordered a big concrete pump, because it would have been a nightmare to wheel all the wheelbarrows down the hill with the concrete, and then on top of that you can look around and just see it as a grid of temp braces that we couldn't get wheelbarrows past. While the concrete was being poured, I spent a bit of time going back and forth making sure all the posts remained plumb and that they had the same spaces in between them. We also went through and set up another string line on the top of the post, and we wanted to make sure that that stayed straight no matter what, because that string line is going to be at the height of where the handrail is, and that's going to be at the point where you're sighting the post when you're walking across the boardwalk, so we had to make sure that was perfect. It was such a mission to get to this point and actually get the holes dug and the post installed. So it feels pretty great now knowing that we've got a clear track in front of us and we can actually progress and get this boardwalk done. What we're doing right now is quickly laying down a weed mat which is going to sit underneath the boardwalk and stop any vegetation from growing beneath the boardwalk and coming through it. Yep. We're using 150 LVLs for the bearers, and we actually need a double bearer on either side of the post. So for each post there's going to be 4 bearers going across. What we're going to be doing though is going through and just doing 1 bearer on either side for now, and we're just tacking those on with a single nail so we can move them if we need to. We do have that flicked chalk line on the post, and this chalk line has a very small fall, and the whole boardwalk is just following the slope of the ground, and it's falling about 400 mil over the entire boardwalk. Because there's a slope, we can't go through with our levels and make sure it is level, so even though we're following this flicked chalk line here, once we put all these bearers on, we're going to go through with a straight edge, just make sure that everything does run nice and smooth into each other, and once we check all the heights and make sure everything's nice and gradual, we'll go through, put that second bearer on, and we're going to completely nail them off and run 2 bolts all the way through the bearers and through the post on either side. Since we are working out in the bush to build this boardwalk, we don't have any access to power. There's a hotel or resort up on the top of the hill, but it's a few minute walk to get up there. We can put some batteries on charge, but we can't run any extension leads and we can't use any power tools down here. So this power supply has actually been saving the day with this job. You can see we've got a few batteries on charge here. So if a battery does die, all we have to do is walk over here and switch it over. And I can also run leads to use some of our power saws and some of our more powerful tools that we just wouldn't be able to use if we didn't have this power supply. So this is the Apex 300 that I'm using. This thing is a beast of a power supply. Obviously we're using this right now just to power the job, but this thing is made so it can power an RV or be a backup supply at your home in case there's a power outage. This does have 2,764 watt hours as well. So if you're using it on a job like this, I can charge it up once and just leave it here for a few days, and we can charge countless batteries with it. I'm running the saw off it right now too, and it's going to be able to last a long time. Actually, I'm going to plug this big 235mm saw into the inverter, and we're going to turn it on and see how long it can last powering the saw. All right, so we can see right now, 1.7 days. Let's turn the saw on. So that was pulling out about 800 watts, including one of these batteries that are charging, and it could power that for 3.5 hours non-stop. Obviously using a saw, I'm going to be doing a cut, the saw's going to stop. It's not going to be going off for 3.5 hours. That's an insane amount of time. And what I've also got with the Apex 300 is this hub one here, which is a DC output. And on the side here, we've got the battery expansion port, and I'm going to plug the DC output into that. And with all the DC outputs, we've got a couple Type-C chargers in there, 2 USB chargers, and then also a couple cigarette ports. I want to say thank you again to Blue Eddy for sponsoring this video and helping us out and giving us power so that we can actually build this boardwalk. Our first joist is going on the outside of the post, and the boardwalk's actually going to come out and wrap around those posts by 45mm. We are using 140 by 45 treated pine for the joists, and we're going to be going through and putting them in at max 450 centers. Cool, yeah, I'll yell some measures to you. What we'll do is, because I want to stagger the joints, I'll do this one and that one first. So every measure I give you, if you can get 2 at that, and we'll work that to the change, the direction change, and then we'll do the other 2 working the way back so that stagger. We'll go 4-2-60 for the first 2, please. So even though we can put these joists in at a max at 450 centers, we don't want to put them in at the max span. What we're actually doing instead is we've measured the complete width of the boardwalk and worked out the even centers to put these in. You can see that middle joist is in the dead center of the boardwalk, and the reason it's so important to space these out is we're going to be screwing down the boardwalk into these joists, and at the end of the job you're going to be able to see those screw lines, and it's going to look really tacky and amateur if some of those screw lines are closer together than the other ones. So we put these all in at roughly 410 or 415 centers, and that worked out to be even the whole way through. Alright, so I'm going to go through and we're going to be cutting all these posts down. The reason they're so long is that we weren't actually too sure if there was going to be a balustrade on this side. The plans showed there being no balustrade, but the people we're doing the job for were in 2 minds about putting one in there. It's not happening, so I'm going to go through, we'll cut all of these posts down and get them out of the way now. For that, I do have my big 235mm saw. Obviously for that, we do need power though, so we'll hook up a lead, chug it into the power supply, and see how it goes. So I'm just going to go through and do one cut, which is getting more than halfway through the post, and we're just going to come through at the end with a reset and cut the rest of the post off. The reason that it's so important that I'm using this big 235mm saw though, is that when we're cutting the post on the other side, which you're going to be seeing for the handrail, all I need to do is one clean cut from either side, and that's going to be enough to cut the post off. If I wasn't using this big corded saw, and we're using the battery saws that we're using for the rest of the job, I need to go around and do a cut on every single side of the post, and then still go through the reset at the end to finish it off. Whilst I was going through and cutting the post off, the boys came through and put on all the joist tape over the joists. This is just going to stop any water sitting on the joist and potentially rotting out even quicker. And they've also gone through and put an aluminium flashing on the outside of the boardwalk. And we're finally ready to start spreading out these boards and screwing down the boardwalk. We're using 140 by 45 treated pine for the boards, and the way we're going to be doing this is in a very similar fashion to the way you do a deck. We're going to be doing these in bays, so right now we're going to put down every 5th board, completely screw those off, get those straight, and we'll fill in between the bays afterwards. The only difference in this boardwalk compared to a normal deck is all the direction changes and curves that this boardwalk has. So we're jumping on the first direction change now, and I'll talk you through everything we've done to make this perfect. Admittedly though, it probably would have been easier if I was talking to the camera while doing it, but on this day I was stuck with one of the worst colds I've had in a long time, and as you can see, it's just been raining on us all day. It was a rough day, and it took everything in me just to still get the camera out and just keep pushing through working and get this done. Alright, so what we've done is put that first board down completely square with the next direction change, and then we're just going to go through and rip every single board down by the same amount and just screw them on until we're square with the other side of the boardwalk. I'm pretty sure we're taking off 15 or 20 mil from these boards. It might even be 25 mil looking at it now. I can't remember exactly what it was. But the problem we had is that these boards were actually ordered 2 or 3 years ago, and they were sitting here waiting to get installed. I think originally what was going to happen is that they were going to keep the boardwalk and just replace the boards on the top. But when they started looking at it, they realised that entire boardwalk had to get replaced. So they got these boards nice and early, and they stored them for a few years so that all of the boards had a few bows in them and they were hard to work with. Because they were bowed, we weren't actually cutting a straight line in the board. We actually had to follow the bow to make sure it was even on either side, so we couldn't use a track saw. Because we couldn't use a track saw, I'm going through the planer, making sure that our cut is perfect and cleaning it up if I need to. And then I'm just going through with a sander at the end, and we're taking that harsh corner off these boards. Unlike the rest of the boardwalk, where we're going to be doing the bays and doing every 5th board, for this corner we're just going to be putting every board in as we go, and we're just giving it a 5mm gap for now. We're conscious that everything here is wet, the boards are probably swelled up with size because they're wet, so we're going to give it a 5mm gap, and once the boards dry out, that gap might open up to about 6mm. What we're doing this morning is just going to make our way down the boardwalk, doing every 5th bay board, straightening those, screwing them off, and we're just going to make our way down until we get to a corner, do the same thing that we did yesterday, do all of our corner boards, make that corner perfect, and from there we're just going to restart and keep going with the bay boards until we get to the end of the boardwalk. So I'll square it up off this, I'll over it over the subfloor. So we got two 140. I might just move these out of the way. Two 140 and we'll go 17 hun. Put it in the app. 2733. So if you hold that side of my tape, just where it meets that board on the outside of that joist. Yep. So we're out of square, about 32 mil. We need another 32 mil to make it square. Were you doing 15 mil rips for those? Can we get 2 more, please? And then we're good to go. So that was a little walkthrough on what we were doing to get those corners perfect. That was a small corner we were working on, so we're ripping the boards down by 15 mil. And as you saw, all I was doing was squaring up the next part of the boardwalk and then seeing how far out of square we were to work out how many more cuts or how many more rips we needed to get that corner perfect. Obviously we're out of square by 32 mil. We had 2 more rips coming in at 15 mil each. So for that other 2 mil that we're out of square by, we just changed the gaps to be 4 mil on one side, 5 mil to the other side, which you'll never see, but then we know that the boardwalk is going to be completely square and perfect from there on out. And once those corners are done, we're just going through and finishing off all the bay boards. And to make sure we do have the bay boards spaced out perfectly, What we're doing is we're grabbing a spacer block each, which we're putting in between our bay boards. We're pulling the board hard up to that spacer block, and then that way we know we've got our boards in the exact right position, and it just eliminates any error that could happen if we're going through and trying to measure out for our bay boards every single time. Now this is the exact same way that we'll be doing a deck. We've got our timber wedges which we're putting in between the gaps of the boards, and we're just visually sighting the gaps now between each bay board to make sure they're the same. Unlike a deck though, we're not worried about using a countersink bit to drill these holes, and it's actually reassuring as well to go through using bugle screws and not having the fear of the screw snapping, which is one problem that we deal with when we're doing thinner screws for a deck. So I spent the rest of the day going through and trying to get as much of this boardwalk screwed off as I could. Whilst I was doing that, a couple of the other guys were doing some form work because we're actually going to be pouring 2 small concrete ramps on either side of the boardwalk. That's going to be coming in at one of the last days of this job, and I'm a bit nervous for it because it's going to be one of my first times actually doing any type of concreting. We managed to go through and screw off the boardwalk a lot quicker than what I was expecting, and now the job's really starting to come together. It feels awesome being at this stage now, even though we still got a few things to do, but we can finally start to see the finished product. We had a few days early on when we're stuck trying to dig these holes and get the post in, where we're starting to even question if we're going to make it to this stage. So it's awesome to see everything coming together now. And we're on one of the last jobs at the moment, and we're going to be going through and doing all of the checkouts for the handrail. Unfortunately, the handrail is not going to be anything fancy. It's not up to us, it's up to the clients that we're doing the job for. They've chosen how they want the boardwalk to look. But we're doing 90-45 checkouts, and it's just going to be 90-45 at 1 meter high and 600 high in these posts, and that's going to be the handrail for this boardwalk. Even though we're just using 90-45, we still want it to look as neat as possible. And to do that, I'm just going to be doing a half checkout on these end posts. So the 90-45 is going to start half on the post, and you're not going to be seeing the end grain of the 90-45 when you're walking up to the boardwalk. We can't put the handrail in yet because we're waiting for some stain to come, and we're actually going to stain the checkouts that we've just cut out, and we'll do the handrail tomorrow once that's all been stained. What I'm doing now though is something that I call a $1 million cut. Not because it's worth $1 million to do this cut, but because if I screw this cut up when I'm cutting back all these boards, I've just ruined all the work we've done laying down these boards for the boardwalk, and I don't even want to think about all the money we would lose having to replace them all. And I know exactly what you're thinking right now. You're looking at me going, why am I not using a track saw? We spent all this time working on this boardwalk, trying to make it look as good as possible, and now I'm just going through and freehanding the cut. The reason for that is that we're actually going to be covering up this edge with the tow rail. We'll be doing that tomorrow as well, but we're going to be running a tow rail on either edge of this boardwalk, and it's actually going to be sitting over the cut that I'm doing right now, so it's going to be completely hidden. In saying that though, I am making this cut as neat as possible. I'm taking my time and making sure that it does look dead straight. So whilst I was busy today doing the checkouts for the handrail and cutting back the boardwalk, we also had a delivery of crushed rock. So that's been poured in for both of the ramps on either side of the boardwalk, and now we're good to go for the concrete, which is going to be coming tomorrow. This is my first time ever dealing with exposed concrete. I probably should have watched a video or two before jumping into it, but we're going to see how it comes up. Concreting's always a job I've always admired and respected because it's something you can't get wrong. You've got the pour there and you've just got a time limit to get it right. And if you muck around or if something doesn't go right, you're screwed. You've only got the one shot to do it. So now I'm in the deep end, I'm feeling that pressure, but it was a pretty wet mix though. So I'm going to get it roughly good and then we'll leave it for a little bit. Hopefully it dries up a little bit more and then we can go through and make it as smooth and perfect as we need. While I wait for the concrete to dry, I'm going to jump on and start doing the toe rails. We're cutting a bit of 90/45 in between the post for the toe rail on this side, and for the other side, it's going to be sitting right on the edge of the boardwalk, hiding that cut that I did yesterday. And we're just going through and putting a bit of plastic on the bottom of this 90/45, and we're cutting that plastic back so it's completely hidden, but it's just another barrier of water protection in there. I've got this little block which I've made into a jig to mark exactly where my screws are going to go for this handrail. You're going to be seeing all the heads of the screws and it's going to look out of place if they're all over the shop. So what I've done is measured exactly even centers in this block and I'm just going to go through, drill through those holes, which is going to mark a hole on the handrail, and then I can go through and drill that hole out and our screws are going to be evenly spaced the whole way through.
Alright, so the boardwalk is pretty much done with the exclusion of a few things. So we can see a painter's actually came through and they've started staining all the post and the rails. One thing we have to do is actually go through and we've got some metal post caps that sit on top of them, which will be very similar to these old ones here. So just a black bit of metal that's going to sit over the post and give it a bit more of a clean finished look. On top of that, we have gone through as well and done some non-slip treads on the concrete. So apart from those post caps, that's most of our work done. They're just coming a little bit later, then someone's going to come up here and chuck those on when we get them. I'm not too sure if the entire boardwalk is going to get stained though, or if it's just going to be the posts and the rails. I think it's going to look good if they do go through and stain the entire thing. So I'm done with the boardwalk today, but we've actually got another job starting around the corner where there's some old rotted away stairs. So we're going to be ripping those up, replacing those, and that video is going to be out in exactly 1 week as well, which is pretty much continuing on this walkway going through the boardwalk to where those stairs are.